The 2016 Audi A4 B9 has a very distinctive shoulder line, a sharp crease that runs cleanly from the headlights through the doors and into the taillights. It gave the car a sculpted premium look, the kind of visual detail you expect from a luxury brand. But when Audi facelifted the A4 in 2020, that defining line no longer carries across the doors. Instead, it fades out into soft, flat metal like Audi just gave up halfway through the design. Audi says the change was about being more modern and improve aerodynamics. In reality, the change was almost certainly about simplifying manufacturing. Sharp creases are expensive. They require more complex stamping, tighter tolerances, and more quality control. Softer panels are easier to press, easier to align, and cheaper to make. You end up saving money on tooling, production time, and scrap rates. Multiply that by hundreds of thousands of cars, and suddenly that design update makes a lot of financial sense. Modern car design is increasingly shifted towards smooth, unbroken body panels. Sharp lines, deep creases, and complex surfaces are being replaced by rounded shapes. On paper, this improves aerodynamics and manufacturing efficiency. In practice, it has made many new cars look generic and cheap. This trend is especially damaging for the so-called luxury brands, whose entire identity is built on visual presence and perceived quality. Take the previous generation BMW X3. Its sharp lines, chiseled surfaces, and well-defined proportions gave it a genuinely premium feel. Even from a distance, you could tell it apart from cheaper competitors. It just looks way more sophisticated. The new X3 is a different story. Its body panels are smoother, rounder, and far less defined. While the design is cleaner, it has lost much of the character that made the old one feel upscale. Without those defining lines, the new X3 blends into traffic, looking far closer to budget crossovers than a premium SUV. But at least they put LED strips on the grille, so that should make it premium enough, right? For decades, buying a new car carried a certain expectation. Progress. Newer generations were supposed to feel better built, more solid, more refined, and more advanced than what came before. Yet today, despite higher prices, many modern cars feel cheaper than their predecessors. Doors sound hollow, interiors creak, materials look impressive but feel flimsy, and long-term durability is increasingly questionable.
Total retail price $206. That is crazy.
Manufacturers have become extremely skilled at creating the illusion of quality. Ambient lighting, large touchscreens, and sharp digital graphics distract from thinner materials, glossy plastic, and synthetic finishes that look premium in marketing photos but feel very cheap in real life. The latest Mercedes-Benz C-Class is a perfect example of this illusion. On first glance, the interior is stunning. The screen integration is elegant, the layout is modern, and the technology is undeniably impressive. But spend a few minutes actually interacting with it and the magic fades quickly. What should feel solid instead feels delicate. Minor vibrations translate into squeaks and rattles, and surfaces that look expensive feel thin and brittle to the touch. It's the kind of interior that impresses in a showroom but disappoints in daily use, especially when compared to older Mercedes cabins that felt solid and used nicer materials. That's why they didn't put a V8 in a C63. You can't really hear the engine over the plastic creaking noises, so there was no point on a big engine. Audi, once the undisputed benchmark for interior quality, has taken similarly aggressive steps in cost reduction. This goes beyond the well-known shift towards touchscreens and the removal of those beautifully dimed switches, knobs, and buttons that defined Audi cabins for decades. They took this cost-saving disguised as minimalism so far that they even changed the steering wheel badge from a 3D metal badge to a flat sticker. Are Audi's executives retarded or something? Don't they know half their buyers buy their cars only to flex the steering wheel on Instagram stories? They are willing to damage their own brand to cut costs by a couple of cents. Hey, at least they fill the interior with ambient lighting, so those Instagram stories should still look premium enough. Check out the X3 interior. Would you call this premium? BMW, prior to its latest generation, was making some of the nicest interiors. The materials were progressively getting more premium, while the build quality was as solid as ever. But now, they have dropped the ball completely. Take the new 5 Series. Compared to its predecessor, it is objectively worse in key areas. There is no leather dashboard and fewer physical controls. The remaining buttons are integrated into a single glossy plastic panel, offering no tactile separation, which is no better than using a touchscreen. Features like soft close doors, available since the E60 generation, are gone. These aren't small changes, these are straight up downgrades. Even basic details have been stripped away. Door pockets have lost their felt lining, meaning anything placed inside rattles constantly, a detail still present in far cheaper cars like the Volkswagen Golf. The touring model has even lost the independently opening rear window, a beloved BMW feature that existed on every 5 Series Touring since the 1990s. The official explanation of BMW was that they couldn't fit the latch mechanism in the new Touring shape, which is complete bullshit and we all know that. These decisions aren't limited to premium brands, they are just easier to notice there. The Mark 8 Volkswagen Golf replaced physical climate controls with haptic sliders, and if having no physical feedback wasn't bad enough, they aren't even backlit. At night, you can see or feel them. It's very disappointing from a brand once praised for its ergonomic interiors and attention to detail. What's more disappointing is the window switches on Volkswagen's ID cars. Unlike normal switches, where the driver can operate all 4 windows with separate switches, they only have 2. To operate the rear windows, you have to press a capacitive button, which has no feel whatsoever, and you have to press it again just to go back controlling the front windows. They are willing to ruin the driving experience over a couple of cents, and these are not cents that will lower the price of the cars. These are penny-pinching measures to purely increase shareholder profits. A lot of the worst cost-cutting happens in places most people won't notice right away, like removing gas struts to weld the bonnet or switching from metal to plastic oil pans, which are guaranteed to break with time even if they don't get cracked. Even paint in new cars is considerably thinner than it used to be. I'm sure the paint tech has advanced greatly, but still, a thinner paint chips way easier as cars become more and more used. These are long-term quality hits that won't show up in the first year of ownership, but they absolutely will later. If a car survives the warranty period, it is considered good enough by modern standards. So why is everyone doing it? First, electrification is insanely expensive. Building electric cars isn't just a matter of swapping an engine for a battery. Manufacturers have had to develop entirely new platforms, new factories, new supply chains, and massive software teams from scratch. Batteries alone cost thousands per car, and that's before even you get to motors, electronics, cooling systems, and all the safety engineering around them. All of that money has to come from somewhere. Instead of pricing cars even higher than they already are, brands quietly cut costs in areas most buyers won't immediately notice. Thinner materials, fewer features, and simpler designs. The car still looks modern and high-tech, but underneath, a lot has been taken away. Second, parts and raw materials are more expensive than they have ever been. Steel, aluminum, plastics, rare earth materials, semiconductors, everything costs more. On top of that, global logistics are more expensive and less predictable than they used to be. Shipping parts across the world now cost more and takes longer, which adds even more pressure on manufacturers to save money wherever they can. The easiest way to deal with rising costs isn't innovation, it's simplification. Fewer buttons, fewer trim pieces, fewer materials, fewer variations. It makes the car cheaper to build, but it also makes it feel cheaper to live with. And finally, there's the biggest reason of all, profit pressure. Car companies are publicly traded businesses, and shareholders expect constant growth. But car sales can grow forever. Markets are saturated, people are holding onto cars longer, and new regulation make development more expensive. While the manufacturers can sell more cars, they focus on making more money per car. And the easiest way to do that isn't charging less, it's quietly removing quality. Most buyers won't notice a thinner door panel or cheaper plastic during a test drive. But when you multiply those savings across hundreds of thousands of cars, the financial payoff is massive. The result is a generation of cars that look incredible on Instagram, impress you for the first 5 minutes, and then slowly start to reveal just how much has been taken away once you actually live with them. And once you start noticing it, you just can't stop.